I see it, I like it. I see it, I think. I follow the steps. I like it. I want it. Handwriting on point. A plus, I got it.
Welcome, my beautiful ladies, my handsome gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about factoring quadratic expressions. Let's go word by word. Factoring. Just think of two parentheses multiplying each other. So when two parentheses are next to each other, that means that they're multiplying. So just think of that. Factoring is just two parentheses multiplying each other. Quadratic is just something to the power of 2. Okay, it can be y squared, z squared, x squared. Something to the power of 2. An expression is just an operation without the equal sign. So any operation, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, okay? Without the equal sign. Now let's go to the questions. We're gonna do word problems. So let's understand it. List two possible values for C. So we need a list of possible values for C. We don't know. When given, so something is going to be given the following values of B. So B is going to be given. Perfect. 4x squared plus bx plus c. That is going to be our expression. If C is greater than 0, so something greater than 0 is positive. So our two answers must be positive right away. We got hints. And it says lastly, b equals -7. And that's our given. So there you go. This one is -7. That was the given thing that they were gonna give us. Now, in order to do this, we must factor. And when we factor, there's something that we must know. So let's write down our expression so we can understand it. Okay. And let's plug it in the -7. Okay. Because every time we see a B, it's -7. Right? So there's a B right now. So let's plug it in. Let's substitute. So every time we see a B, we substitute for -7. And when we substitute, we put it in parentheses. Okay? And now that we substitute for B, let's write everything else the same. Okay? Now I call this the pirate. Okay? And when you see the pirate, it's a subtraction. Okay, now let's copy everything the same. That was the only step. I like going step by step. Okay, now that everything is done, we put it in one color to make it look beautiful. Okay, so for factoring, there's just one simple thing, and is that we need to find two numbers that multiply C. And when you add them, it will equals B. In this case, it's -7. So we must find two numbers that multiply to C. And when we add it, it has to equal to -7. And we know from the question that C must be greater than 0. So we know off the bat that this is positive. Okay? And we need two numbers that when you add it equals a -7. And the only way to meet those two criteria if we use two negative numbers, right? So if we use two negative numbers, it meets both of the criteria. Right? Because when you add negative plus another negative equals a greater negative, so that's good. It will equals -7. And when we multiply negative to negative, it equals a positive. So we're good. So now let's pick our numbers. So our numbers, let's go by 1. -1 plus a negative number that equals -7 is -6. So -1 plus negative 6 equals negative 7. Perfect, meets the criteria. Now let's plug in the same numbers that we use. Negative 1 and negative 6. How much is that? Negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6. So C is 6. We found one value already. So we found one answer. Now let's do the same thing now. Let's find another value for C. So we're gonna jump over here to this step because it's the same expression. And we must find two numbers, the same thing, that when you add it will equal negative 7. So we know that they're both gonna be negative, and when you multiply has to equals to Z. So we know that they're negative, so when you multiply it's to be. So where's the next to each other's multiplication, okay? So let's go with 2. Negative 2 plus negative something equals negative 7, negative 5. Okay, now let's plug it in. Negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. There you go, positive 10. So that's our other answer. Okay, so we know that C is equal to 6 and C is equal to 10. Okay, good. Now the second question is exactly the same question, but now with a different B value. Okay, now let's plug it in. Let's do the same thing. Plus, to substitute that, no, first let's write the expression. Okay, now we know that B equals negative 3. So every time we see a B, we put a negative 3. So plus, let's substitute, and whenever you substitute, you write it in parentheses. You see it, how that be turned into negative 3, and then we write everything in the same. So x squared plus, oh, hold on, let's erase the plus, because right away I see the pirate face. This is the pirate face, so whenever you see the pirate face, this is subtraction. Okay, then let's write everything else the same. 3 x plus c. And now let's write everything in one color. There you go. And let's do the same thing. We need to find two numbers that when you add them equals negative 3. So we know right away that there must be negative numbers, and when you multiply we equal C. You know right away it's negative because that's the only way to get a positive C, right? Now let's pick a number. 1. Negative 1 plus negative something equals negative 3, negative 2. Okay, now let's plug it in. Negative 1 times negative 2 equals 2. So that's one answer of C. Now let's find the other value of C. Let's start off there, and let's find two values that when you add it equals negative 3, and two values when you multiply equals C, right? We use negative 1, right? If we use negative 2, it's gonna be repeating. Okay, so let's use a fraction. Let's use 1/2. Negative 1/2 plus something that equals negative 3. We'll say that is, let me see, yeah, negative 5/2, right? because it will give us, when you add it will give us negative 6 over 2, and negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. Perfect. So let's plug it in. 1/2 and 5 over 2. When you multiply this, what does it give us? It gives us negative and negative is positive. So right away we know that it has to be positive. Good job. 5 times 1 is 5. And 2 times 2 is 4. So our answer is, our other answer is C. There you go. Let's see. Perfect. So C equals 2 and C equals 5 over 4. Okay. Everything is perfect. I'm just double checking my math because we always double check. Okay, now in this problem is the same, but now with a different b value. Now in this case it's b is 6. Now let's write the equation plus bx plus c. Now we need to substitute the b for our value that it's given. In this case it's 6, so we put it in parentheses. Plus 6. Now let's write everything in one color. There you go. It's our new expression. Two numbers that add up to 6. And it multiplied to positive c. So this could be anything, right? So let's pick a number. This could be positive or negative. So two numbers add up to 6, and two numbers when you multiply to c. So let's pick 1. 1 plus something that equals 6 is 5. So let's plug it in here. 1 and 5. 1 times 5 equals 5. So that's our answer for C. 5. Now let's start off here. Let's say x plus c. Two numbers that add equals 6, and when you multiply equals c. So let's do 2. 2 plus something equals 6. We know it's 4. So when you plug it in, 2 times 4 equals 8. So that's our other answer of C. Okay, so our answer is C equals 5 and C equals 8. Okay. Now let's go with the fourth questions. Another value of b. So let's plug it in. So let's write the equation. Now let's plug it in. Plus b in this case is 12. So we just put it in parentheses. Plus c. And I like to write it in one color. Plus c. Perfect. Now we need two numbers that add up to 12 and two numbers that multiply to c. Those are the two criteria, okay? You must follow these two criteria always when doing factoring. So let's put a 1 here. 1 plus something equals 12 is 11. And 1 times 11 is 11. So that's one of the answers of C. Now let's start off here. Two numbers that when you add it equals 12. And when you multiply equals C. Let's do 2. 2 plus something equals 12 is 10. 2 plus 10 equals 12. And let's plug it in here. 2 and 10. 2 times 10 equals 20. That's the other value of C. So C is equals to 11. And C equals to 20. Okay. We always circle our answers. Oh, now this is a different question. Now we need to find the question mark right here. So that's just factoring. So we're still gonna follow the two criteria that we did in the previous two problems, that we need to find two numbers that add up to the middle term, which is in this case 6, and they must multiply and give us this number 8. Okay, we're gonna use the method of the x. Okay, but it has to follow those two criteria again. So we need to find two numbers that add up to 6 and multiply to 8. Okay, so let's pick 2 and 4. Okay, when you multiply 2 and 4 equals 8. So we got it. And when you add 2 plus 4 equals 6. The middle term. Good job. So we got it. Okay, so our two numbers are 2 and 4. Okay, so this is how we do it. Now, after you find the two numbers, you grab the n square. Okay, we first have to find it here, and its coefficient. We know the coefficient is an imaginary one, so we always write a 1 next to the variable here. So we only grab one n. We don't grab the square. Okay, we just grab one n and we put it in the bottom. Over 1n. Over 1n. Okay? So factoring, what did I tell you? It's just two parentheses. Multiplying each other, right? So we're gonna go backwards. Okay? We're gonna go backwards. Like from here and up. So in the bottom says what? 1n. So we're gonna write 1n. Then we're gonna go up. It says 2 here, right? And this is a positive 2. So we're gonna put plus 2. We're gonna go the same thing with the other number. Backwards. The first number, we're gonna start with 1n. Then we're gonna go up to the 4, and 4 is positive, so it's plus 4. Okay, we're gonna simplify this to make it look pretty. 1n is just n plus 2, and the other 1n is just n, and then plus 4. Okay, so this is our answer. N plus 2 is already here, and n plus 4 must be this one right here, which 4 is the missing number. So our answer is 4. Okay, let's do the same. 63 goes here, and the middle term goes here. So two numbers that multiply 63 and add up to negative 16. Here, we must do some trickery. So let's see. Two numbers that multiply to 63. Let's start off with 3. 3 times something that equals 63. And I believe it's 21. Yes, 21. So if we add, let's say, okay, so we need them to add to negative 16, right? Okay, so the only way to add to a negative number is if both values are negative. Okay, so negative 3 plus negative 21 is going to be greater than negative, so it's not going to be 16. So we must keep on going. So we need to find other two values to give us 63. So 63 by, it's a good number. I know 7 times 9 equals 63. And in order to add to negative 16, both of them has to be negative, right? Because negative 7 times negative 9 equals 63, positive. Okay, so negative 7 plus negative 9 equals negative 16. Perfect. Those are the two values, negative 7 and negative 9, right? Because when you multiply negative 7 times negative 9 equals 63, and when you add them, negative 7 plus negative 9 equals negative 16. Okay, so we do the same step as before, and actually you don't need to do it. Let's see. Factoring, you know that it's two parentheses next to each other, which are multiply. So you're just gonna write n minus 7. So our value here, just gonna write it here, and n minus 9. Okay, n minus 7 is already here, and minus 9 must be there. Now let's see this. Here's n minus 9, and here is n plus something. So we need to convert this into positive. And I always tell you, in math, you're never subtracting. So here we're subtracting, right? So in math, we're never subtracting. You know what we're doing? We're always adding a negative number. So every time you see a negative a subtraction sign here, just think of adding a negative number. So we're gonna convert this n minus 9 into 9 plus negative 9. So remember that whenever you subtract, you're always adding a negative number. Okay, in math, you never subtract. You're always adding a negative number. Okay, so now here it goes. n plus, and the question mark is negative 9. So the answer is negative 9. Okay. Now here, we must do the opposite of factoring, which is the spider, distributing. So we must grab this and must do the opposite of factoring, which is distributing. So how we do distributing is, first we gotta write it. Plus 7, 3, plus 2. We must do the spider. The spider is this. You grab the first term, and we're gonna multiply times the first term, and then the first term times the second term. Okay, so 2n times negative 3n is negative 6n squared. Now 2n again times 2 equals plus 4n. Now we must do exactly the same thing with the second term. So this term we're gonna multiply to here, and then we're gonna multiply to here. So 7 times negative 3n is negative 21n. And then we must do positive 7 times 2 equals plus 14. Okay. Now we see this. The middle terms are always gonna be like terms. So negatives, we're gonna copy everything the same. So 4n minus 21 is negative 17 and plus 14. Copy the same thing. So now look at this. N squared minus 17 and plus 4 is exactly the same thing as here. So the question mark is negative 6. So our answer is negative 6. Okay. Now here we must factor. So we're gonna use the b. So dx. Top number is the multiplication, so c, negative 18, and they must add up to 3. Okay. Now let's find the numbers. Two numbers that multiply to 18. So let's pick 9 times 2 equals 18. Oh, but it has to be negative 18. So one of these has to be negative. And in order to add up to a negative number, the top number has to be negative. So negative 9 plus 2 equals negative 7. So it's not these two numbers are not it, because when you add them, it's not -3. So let's pick another number. I believe it's 3. So let's see. 6 times 3 equals 18. And it must be -18, so the top number must be negative. So -6 times 3 equals -18. It matches. And -6 plus 3 is -3. So when you add this, -3 plus 3 equals -3. It matches, so we're good. So these two numbers are the answers. So again, factoring is just two parentheses multiply each other, so it's gonna be, we're gonna use the same variable. So b, the first number was -6, so b minus 6, and the second number is 3, so b plus 3. Okay, look at that. B plus 3, I mean b minus 6, it's right here, and b plus, right here, b plus, it's right here, the same thing, b plus. So the question mark is 3. So our answer is 3. Good job. Now here, okay, we must factor again. So the question says 2b squared plus 10b plus 2. Okay, and right away we can see that every single term, it's divisible by 2. Okay, so we must factor it 2 first. So let's factor it 2. Okay, so let's divide everything by 2. Okay, and the thing that we're gonna divide always go outside. So it's gonna be 2 parentheses, and then we must solve it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 1b squared plus 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 5b plus 12 divided by 2 is 6. So this is gonna be our new expression. So let's make it cleaner. Let's eliminate this one right here, because that one is itself. So it's gonna be b squared. So 2b squared plus 5b plus 6. Okay. Now let's factor everything in parentheses. So two numbers that multiply to 6 and add up to 5. Right away, I know that it's 2 and 3, because 2 times 3 equals 6, and 2 plus 3 equals 5. Okay, so what variable are we using? We're using b. So b, so what is the first number? 2, so plus 2. Second number is plus 3. Okay, but don't forget about the 2. Okay, so the 2 goes on top. So b plus 2, it's right here. B plus 3, it's right here. So the number outside is 2. So our answer is 2. Now let's solve this. Oh, now this has the coefficient. It's no longer 1, it's now 14. So let's solve it. Let's factor. So we need to find a number that multiplies 14 times 5 is 70. Okay? And it must add to the middle term, which is 17. Okay? So right away I can see that 10 times 7, when you multiply, we equal 70. And when you add them, we equal 17. So those are our two numbers. Easy peasy. Now, remember, you're gonna find the x squared, which is this one. Okay, it's this one. Okay, and you're gonna grab everything but the square, and you're gonna put it below both of them. So 14x. 14x. Okay, and if you can, you simplify. Okay, so 10 over 14 is divisible by 2. So you're gonna divide by 2, both of them, because that's how you simplify. Okay, divided by 2, so it would be 5, and this will be 7x. Okay, and then let's simplify this. This is divided by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 2x. Okay, so we know factoring is 2 parentheses multiplying each other, right? Our variable is x. Okay, so we're gonna go backwards, remember? So it's gonna be x. We're gonna go backwards like that. So x, then goes 7. So it's gonna be 7x, right? And then we're gonna move on to the top, which is 5 plus 5. So here we're gonna go backwards from the denominator to the numerator. So 2x and 1, which is plus 1. There you go. 2x plus 1 is right here. X plus 5 is right here. So the question mark is 7. So our answer is 7. Okay, let's do this problem now. Same thing. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And it must add up to the middle term. Remember I told you whenever you don't see a number in a variable, you assume it's a 1. Okay? So always put a 1 next to a variable when it doesn't have a number. So in the middle term right here is negative 1. So two numbers are multiplied to 20 and equals negative 1. It's 5 and 4. 5 times 4 equals 20. So one of them has to be a negative. Let's pick 5. Negative 5 times 4 equals negative 20. Perfect. And when you add them, negative 5 plus 4 equals negative 1. Perfect. Now, when it doesn't have, when x squared has a coefficient, which is in this case is 5, we grab it along with the x, not the square, and we put it under it. 5x, 5x, okay? And we will simplify. Here, we're going to divide it by 5. Okay? So, negative 1, and this would be x, 1x. Right? Here, this is already simplified. So remember, factoring is just two parentheses multiplying each other. We're going to go backwards from the denominator to the top, to the numerator. So 1x minus 1. And here, backwards, denominator to the numerator. So 5x plus 4. Okay? This side is not simplified because 1x is x. So we must make it cleaner. So 1x is just x minus 1. 5 plus 4. Okay? 5x plus 4. So over here. And x, x minus 1 is not the same thing as x plus something. So what did I tell you? X minus 1 in math, you're never subtracting. Never. What you're doing is always adding a negative number. So every time you see subtracting, you do adding a negative number. See, so x plus, it's right here. So the question mark is negative 1. So our answer is negative 1. Now, let's do this problem. Now, what are the possible values of b? So we need to find values. We need to find 2 values of b for the following values of c. So this is gonna be given now. Okay, for this expression, and b must be again greater than 0, so it has to be positive. So our 2 answer must be positive. Okay, and c equals is the given one. C is gonna be negative 7. Okay, so let's write the expression. Okay, now let's substitute that given the c equals -7. So every time we see c, we put in -7. So plus bx plus, there you go, there's the c. So we're gonna put a -7. Okay, now you see this, I call the pirate. So every time you see it, you turn into subtraction. 7. Now I always like to leave everything one color after I simplify everything. Good. Now what did I tell you about this is that we need a criteria. Okay, so first we need two numbers that multiply to -7, and then those two numbers must add to b, and we know b is a positive number from the question because it says b has to be greater than 0. Okay, so two numbers that multiply to -7 and when you add them will be a positive number. Has to be the only way to multiply and get a negative numbers has to be a negative and the other one has to be a positive. That's the only way to get a negative answer when you multiply. So let's pick a number. Let's pick -1. -1 times something that equals -7. 7, positive 7. Okay, let's put it right here. -1 and 7. The addition -1 and 7 is 6. Okay, so 6 is one of our answers, so B. Okay, now we need to find the other answer of B. Write this. We jump to this step and we do the same thing. Two numbers that multiply and give us -7, and when we add equals B. So let's do with something that one of them has to be negative to give us a negative answer. So negatives. So two numbers that multiply to -7. Let's see. Let's pick 2. -2. -2 times something equals -7. 7 over 2. Right? Yes. Yes. -2 times 7 over 2 equals -7. So now let's add them. 2. Here we need to find, we always know that in any number is over 1. So in order to add them, we need to find the same denominator. So this would turn out to be -4 over 2 plus 7 over 2 equals 3 over 2. So our B will be 3 over 2. So B would equal 6 and B equal 3 over 2. See? Now let's do the next problem. Same thing. Now C equals -3. So x squared plus bx plus c. And we know c is -3, so from the question, x plus bx. So every time we see a c, we plug in a -3. And in parentheses, -3. Now, every time we see the pirate, put a subtraction. And now we're gonna change everything to one color because everything is already simplified. Okay. The two criteria are that you need to find two numbers that multiply to -3, and when you add them, equals to b. Okay. Now to get it multiplied to -3, one of them has to be negative. Okay. So let's start with 1 and 3. -1 times 3 equals -3. And when you add them, equals 2. Okay, so one of our answers is 2. So now let's go back to this step. Find another value for b. Again, you need to find two numbers that multiply to -3, and when you add them, equals to b. But we know that one of them has to be negative, so let's pick 2. So -2 times 2 equals -3 would be 3/2. Okay, there you go. 3/2. Okay. And when you add them, we'll give you what? We have to have the same denominator. So -4/2 plus 3/2 equals -1/2. Our answer is negative. So, and we know from the question that it's not supposed to be negative, it has to be positive. So we made a mistake. That means that we gave the negative sign to the wrong value. Okay, so let's erase this negative and let's change it to here. Okay, now if we make this value negative, it will make a difference now, because when we substitute, now this will no longer have a negative, and we're gonna add a negative here, right? So it will be 4/2 plus a -3/2. So 4 plus -3 will be no longer negative, it will be 1/2. Okay, so this answer is positive. So now it's the right answer. So b equals 2 and b equals 1/2. Okay, now to 14. 14, same question. So let's copy down the expression. Two numbers that multiply to c, and when you add them, equals 2b. Right? That's the two criteria, right? Good. Okay, just wanted to go over that. So now let's plug it in. Plus bx plus what's c? C is 6. So when we substitute, we always put in parentheses. So now let's write everything again. Okay, in one color. This time there's no pirate, so we just write in one color. So we need something that two numbers are multiplied to 6, and therefore when you add them, will give us a b. Two numbers are multiplied to 6 is easy. We will start with 1, so let's do 1. 1 times 6. The addition 1 and 6 is 7, so that's one answer. I'm gonna jump to this step. That's bx plus 6. two numbers that multiply equals 6, and when you add them, what equals to b is 2. 2 times something equals 6. 3. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. So those are our answers. B equals to 7 and B equals to 5. Okay. Now, same problem. X squared plus bx plus c. Okay, let's substitute c for 12. So when we substitute, we always want to put it in parentheses. Okay, and I just like put it in the same color. Okay, now again, two numbers when you multiply equals 12, and when you add them has to be b, our answer. So let's start with 1. 1 times 12 is 12. So 1 plus 12 is 13. So that's one answer. So let's jump to this step. Plus b x plus 12. Two numbers when you multiply equals 12, and when you add them equals b. So 2. 2 times something, 2 times 6. Let's plug it in. 2 plus 6 is 8. So that's another answer. So b equals 13 and b equals 8. Okay. Two more questions to go. So this question says the area. So what we know about an area? An area, it's length times width, right? Or in other words, area is something L times something W, right? Two parentheses, and when we see two parentheses, we know that we have to factor, right? That's our clue. So of a rectangular garden, that is this expression, and the width is 2g plus 14. So the width here is 2g. So one of the parentheses is going to be 2g plus 14. Good job. What is the length? So the length is L. So our length is the other parenthesis. So we're trying to find the other parenthesis. So now let's factor it. So 2g, let's write the expression again. 4g plus 140. Okay, we see right away that they're divisible by 2. Okay, so the thing that we're dividing always goes outside. So it's gonna be 2 parentheses. Now let's do the division of each term. 2 divided by 2 is 1. G squared. 34 divided by 2 is 17. G, and 140 divided by 2 is 70. Okay, now let's factor. Okay, we do the x, and when it's just the coefficient is 1, we grab just the 70. So 70, so did I multiply 70 and add the middle term, which is 17. So numbers that multiply 70 and are 17. Let me pick 7 and 4. No, 7 and 10. Perfect. 7 and 10. Yeah, 7 times 10 equals 70, and 7 plus 10 equals 17. So remember the two factors. What variable do we use? G. So G. One of them is 7, so plus 7. The other one is 10, so plus 10. And let's not forget the 2 that is outside. 2. Okay, so we know one is 2g14, right? So let's multiply this 2 to one of the parentheses. So we do the spider. 2 times g equals what? 2g. And 2 times g equals 2g, and 2 again times 7 equals plus 14. Okay? And the other parentheses, we're just gonna copy the same. Plus 10. And here you go. 2g plus 14, 2g plus 14. And the missing length is right here. G plus 10. So our answer, our length is G plus 10. Okay? Now let's do this one. A rectangular tabletop has an area of, so we know area is length times width. Is an area of this expression. What possible dimensions of the table? So they're not gonna give you neither the length or the width. We must find it. So we know an area is just a multiplication of two numbers. So two numbers, right? Two parentheses multiplying. That means factoring. Okay? So factoring, let's copy the expression. Okay, so when we factor, multiply, something has to give us negative 77, and when we add it, we have to be the middle term, 4. Okay, so something that gives us negative 77. So one number has to be negative and the other one positive. So let's pick negative 7 and 11. There you go. Yeah, negative 7 times 11 equals negative 77, and when you add it, negative 7 plus 11 equals 4. There you go. What is a variable? T. So we put it in parentheses, so T, and one of them is negative 7, so T minus 7. The other one is 11, so T plus 11. So our dimensions are this: T minus 7 and T plus 11. This will be the length, this will be the width. Okay, so the answer is the length will be, or basically let's write it with words so that they know. So length, okay, wait, hold on. Length will be T minus 7, and our width is gonna be X. Okay, and this will be our answer, our dimensions. And we're done. Good job.